This Friday, September 28th, MLB Betting Picks Show edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Game Time. Snag the tickets without the stress. Use promo code CFBX on your first purchase to save $20. Download the Game Time app and use promo code CFBX. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play the Underdog Pick'em in college or NFL and win up to 20 times your money in one game. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $500. And we're also brought to you by VSiN. Sign up now and save 40% with their football season special when you use promo code SGP. That's vsin.com/subscribe, promo code SGP. And finally, we're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Thursday, September the 27th, currently 5:04 on the East Coast. Here to get into the Friday betting picks for the Diamond, the last Friday of the regular season. And as we enter the weekend series before we wrap up the regular season, I know everybody's itching just to get to the finish line, but we're just a few days away from the season ending and then getting into the AL the wild card games for each league. But joining me here to help me break it down, you guys know him as a voice of the WNBA Gambling Podcast, the NBA Gambling Podcast, the NFL Gambling Podcast, the Tennis Gambling Podcast, and of course here on the MLB Gambling Podcast, it's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, how's it hanging, my man?
I'm doing pretty well. Had a nice day in the WNBA, so I can't complain too much yesterday. But as for today, I do want to ask you something. My team's season ended about 2 months ago. How are you holding up?
I think we're hanging in there. We're hanging, I guess we can say, by the thread, actually. But big game on Thursday night for the Astros. I know the Mariners and the Astros have split one game each. And I forgot who the Astros are wrapping up the series against this weekend. But let me
play Arizona for some reason.
Yeah, they have Arizona. And then I think the Rangers and the Mariners are going to battle out over the weekend. So I know Arizona's still fighting for a spot in the National League as well, but I guess I can say cautiously optimistic. Would I be surprised if this team misses the playoffs? No, just because they can't take care of business against the shit of the MLB this season and the A's and the Royals. I mean, how do you get swept by the Royals in the midst of not only the division race, but you fighting for a playoff spot? But
it wasn't even just getting swept. They lost 5 of 6, right? Because they had a series right before that they also almost got swept in.
Yeah, and they also fumbled the bag against the A's as well. So those are teams you got to take care of business against. And I think a lot of us, at least locally, the fans are putting it on Dusty Baker because some of the lineups that he puts out just makes you scratch your head. I don't know what his infatuation is with Martin Maldonado, who's batting.
That's what I was going to say. As a
sub 200 when you have Yonder Diaz, who's a significant bat upgrade in the lineup. But I don't know. I guess you have him out for defensive purposes out there for Maldonado. But I think a lot of fans will be screaming if Maldonado is back on this team next year. But important game on Thursday night with Framber Valdez going out there for the Astros, and then the weekend series against the Diamondbacks. So we'll see what transpires. But I think they'll make it in as a wild card team, and then after that we'll see what happens. But Friday's Thursday schedule, I should say, we have a lot of TBD pitchers. And I know this week or the last couple of weeks here, Scott, we've been covering the top games as far as meaningful baseball teams that are still fighting for something. But we'll make do with what we can here. And then we'll still talk through the games that we want to talk through here, even though some of those games do have undecided pitchers. But anything that's kind of caught your eye in this last week here, or are you just trying to, get to the finish line like the rest of us?
Do we want to talk about the drop fly ball yesterday or no?
Oh yeah, we have to. I mean, that possibly could cost the Cubs the playoff spot.
I watched it. I had no action on the game. I'm like, oh, Atlanta's playing in Chicago. I'll watch this. And it's like, oh, 6-0 lead. What could possibly go wrong? And then I see Smiley come into the game. And I'm like, all right, you know what this means? I got to put the game on because Smiley's coming in for a must-win game for some reason. Wasn't even that bad. Was he good? No. But he did his part. He got the exact fly ball that he needed. Suzuki called off the center fielder. I can't even say got under it, but he tried to field it off his hip, I guess, and missed the ball. Just simply put, didn't make contact with it, and you ended up seeing 2 runs come in. The go-ahead run as well. That's rough. You blew a 6-run lead against Atlanta, and you need every game from that point forward. That's really, really tricky. And then he struck out in the 9th inning to make it worse. That was not good from Suzuki, but yeah, I was shocked when I was watching that live. That was one of those gaffes that you see. I don't want to compare it to like a Buckner situation because, of course, that was the World Series, but that was an all-timer, at least for me. I can't remember the last serious gaffe I saw in a baseball game to that degree with that much, I'd say, just that many stakes on it. I mean, it's not going to matter. It's going to be a funny story if the Cubs make the playoffs anyway. But for all the drama that's going on right now, I couldn't even think of like the most recent error that caused the team to miss the playoffs. Can you? Like, I can't think of one.
Off the top of the head, I can't think of it either. But yeah, I mean, that last night.
Like one moment that just caused your team to miss the playoffs, I can't think of it. Usually you can group together a bunch of, for example, your team. You lose to the A's, you lose to a couple bad teams. It could be a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
This is like one point, one specific action that might cause you to miss the playoffs. I can't think of one recently. I'm sure there's been in history, but I can't think of any on top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anything off of the top of my head either. But I think if they get into the Cubs, that I think it'll be forgotten about, but that'll be the main talking point, at least in Chicago, for the radio stations and locally. I mean, I'm sure it already is today, but I think they're going to reference back to it if they do miss the playoffs. Now, as the updated standings are in that wild card, they are half a game up on the Miami Marlins as of today. And then right now, I know the Marlins and the Mets are in action, and the Marlins are trailing right now 4-0 in that game. And earlier to the Diamondbacks did get the victory against the White Sox. So obviously the Phillies clinched last night a wild card spot. The Diamondbacks are in the driver's seat for that second spot, and it seems like it's going to be a battle between the Cubs and the Marlins. So if the Mets can hold on and the Cubs can find a way to win tonight, they would have a 1.5 game lead. If not, it'll just be a half a game lead. But yeah, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, but nothing comes to mind as far as a blunder that would cost your team a playoff spot. But hopefully that's something that they can get past, and it'll be forgotten about for the Chicago Cubs. Scott, before we get into the actual picks here for the Thursday schedule, let me tell everyone about Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't have to be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets with their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you're going to have. They have, if you haven't checked out the app, it's a really easy experience on that app. I mean, they have flash deals. They have tickets right up to the time of the event. And they're really easy to find for every type of event that's not only a sports event, but any other event that's happening in your area, whether it's a comedy show, whether it's theater, whatever the case might be. And the best part I love about their app is anytime you go in to buy tickets, you're actually going to get an image of that seat view before you actually buy the tickets. You're not going to have any surprises when you actually get to the venue. There's no obstructions or anything in your way of at that specific venue. Their lowest prices are guaranteed. They also have event cancellation protection. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Collect super flash deals for tickets not only for football, basketball, and baseball, but also for concerts, comedy, and theater near you. The Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section and the same row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's how confident they are in their prices. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CFBX for $20 off for your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. From now until October 4th, Underdog is matching 100% of your first deposits of up to $500. Plus, they're giving away $100,000 on Sundays on Underdog Fantasy, a total of $2 million in prizes all season long, $100,000 in prizes this week, and 10 people are going to win $10,000 this week as well. And they have new sweepstakes every week for the NFL season. So watch along, make your picks, and maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or their website, underdogfantasy.com. And when you sign up with promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit of up to $500. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy using promo code SGPN. All right, Scott, like I mentioned, for the Thursday schedule, we are missing pitchers for about more than half of the games, but we're going to make do with what we have in the games that have some meaning, whether it's in the wild card race or in the division here. So looking at the schedule for Thursday here, let me get to the screen here. I don't need standings. I need the schedule. Let me pull it up on my phone here. That might just be faster. All right, so the first game on Thursday we want to get to here is going to be a 2:10 Eastern start. The Arizona Diamondbacks looking to complete the sweep against the Chicago White Sox. No official pitcher yet for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but I'm seeing Touki Toussaint is going to get the start here for the Chicago White Sox. I think, Scott, both you and I agree that probably it does not matter who is starting for the Diamondbacks in this game, but Touki has just been absolutely atrocious thus far this season. But any thoughts on this game here?
No, he's been good lately. I mean, the problem was the one time I kind of praised him, he went out there and went 1 innings, 8 earned against the Royals. But you look at the other starts around it, he's been solid. Last 2 starts, 6 1/3, 1 run against the Red Sox, 5 innings, 1 run against the Twins. Start before the Royals debacle, 6 innings, 2 runs against the Orioles. So he actually has been decent, but I can't pick Chicago. I just can't do it. Team's playing for nothing, and you're looking at the Diamondbacks who just won in shutout fashion on Wednesday. I like their overall form. They're playing for something. The White Sox aren't. I know I don't want to sound like a generic handicapper just only talking about motivation, but there's a reason why Arizona is competing for something and why the White Sox aren't. It's because the White Sox aren't good at baseball, and it's because the Diamondbacks are pretty good at baseball. So I'll go with Arizona. I think if you want to go for the White Sox, maybe a first 5 angle, because Toussaint's been fine lately, but that White Sox bullpen is still a disgrace. The Diamondbacks, once again, have been playing some good baseball recently, which is why they're back in the playoff picture in the first place. I'm going to go with Arizona. You mentioned earlier, once again, about teams needing to take out the trash, so to speak. This is the trash. If you want to make the playoffs, you got to get in. You've come all the way back from a brutal July, and you're in a great spot. You're in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. I trust Arizona to get it done, and they've been a pretty decent road team all year long. Give me Arizona.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we talked about it that the Astros and the Diamondbacks are going to match up this weekend, and that's going to be a tough matchup, but not only for the Astros, but also obviously the Diamondback going up against the defending World Series champions. So, like you mentioned, we talked about at the top of the show that you need to take care of business against the crappier teams, and I think that, number one, they're looking on the scoreboard right now and seeing the Mets up 4-0 over the Marlins. And, they already took care of business on Wednesday afternoon to the Diamondbacks. They need to go back and do it again on Thursday afternoon. So I think will get the job done I'm going to be on the run line here for the Diamondbacks. And there's no question about it for me here in this game against the White Sox. Next game on the board for the Thursday schedule.
By the way, I'm trying to do the math quickly.
Yeah.
If they win tonight and the Marlins lose, then they'd be up. Let me just do the math. They'd be up 3, they'd be up. What are they up right now? They'd be up 3,
right? Or they're only up half right now.
2.5. Or the point is they're not officially clinching if they win the White Sox game, but they'd be basically right there, right? Their magic number would be 1
100%.
if they beat the White Sox.
I think it would be 1. So if Marlins lose on Wednesday afternoon and they go out and take care of business, they're pretty much in their driver's seat to get the job done, or at least clinch a wild card spot. The second one, I should say, right behind the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah.
All right. So next game we want to get to here. Let's go over to the Brewers matchup against the Cardinals. Not really much to talk about here. But I thought, with Corbin Burnes on the mound, we would kick the tires here. But 4-10 start. The St. Louis Cardinals and the Milwaukee Brewers here. I almost said Milwaukee Bucks because we had some NBA news today. But Dakota Hudson gets to start here for the St. Louis Cardinals, and Corbin Burnes is on the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers are a -180 home favorite here, +150 on the money line for the St. Louis Cardinals. Total is set at 8 with juice towards the under at -118. Run line -1.5, +105 for the Brewers, and +1.5, -125 for the St. Louis Cardinals here. I'll start here with Corbin Burnes, who's having a pretty good season, at least the least to say. On the season, 10-8 with a 3.46 ERA, 196 strikeouts to 65 walks. Over his last 5 games, he is 1-2, but he does have a 2.56 ERA. He's only allowed 9 earned runs in 23 2/3 innings pitched, 36 strikeouts in that span as well. There's been 2 starts over his last 5 starts where he has allowed 4 earned runs to the opposition, which was against the Nationals and the Pittsburgh Pirates. But in his last start, he went 5 innings, allowed 2 hits, 6 strikeouts, and 2 walks for the Milwaukee Brewers. And in his career against the Cardinals, he is, let's see here, a 4-5 record where he has a 2.97 ERA. Let me trim this down to last season up to this season.
I was going to say, in his defense, the Cardinals used to be good. In his defense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. 2-2 with a 1.85 ERA. So he's been pretty good actually against the Cardinals dating back to last season. He did face them earlier this season where he went 6 innings, allowed 3 earned runs, and had 7 strikeouts in that game. Looking at the other side here, Dakota Hudson for the St. Louis Cardinals. He's 6-2 with a 4.95 ERA. Over his last 5 starts, he has a 5.93 ERA. Did have 1 bad start, which was against the Baltimore Orioles, where he allowed 7 earned runs in 4 1/3 innings pitched. I think the question in this game becomes here, Scott, is how long are they actually going to let Corbin Burnes be out there? Obviously, because you don't want to risk any injury and you don't want to, compromise your starting rotation because you pretty much don't have a lot to play for because you pretty much wrapped up the, NL Central Division. You kind of look at his last 2 starts. He's only been out there for about 5, or last start was 5 innings, but they were blowing out the Marlins and he didn't really need to be out there. The start previous to that, 5 2/3 against the Washington Nationals. So I think I'm going to trim this down to just take the first 5 run line with the Brewers. I can't see Corbin Burnes being out there for more than 6 innings at max. If that pitch count is going to be up there, there's no reason for him to be out there for that long and just, get him ready for the playoffs. So run line for me in the first 5 innings here for the Brewers here, Scott.
Yeah, I'm going to take the opposite approach. I'm going to take the Cardinals on the money line. I think this price is absurd. I don't really understand the argument for wanting to put the Brewers this big of a favorite. The argument is starting pitchers, Burnes is better. But you said he's probably not going to pitch long.
Yeah.
Milwaukee has nothing to play for.
Right.
They're already locked into their spot. So it doesn't matter what happens for the rest of the season. You mentioned potentially benching Burnes. I'm thinking of even more than that. Are we sure they're going to even use their B lineup in this game? They might just be using a bunch of bench bats. I don't know why they would even bother. These games mean nothing. So I am going to take the Cardinals because, well, to be honest, they have nothing to play for either, but they might use the starters. Who knows? But I think these teams are going to be somewhat closer in terms of talent in this particular spot because Milwaukee has no incentive to try to win the game. For pride, I guess, but
Right.
I think when you're looking at the potential lineups and the overall motivation, both teams have no motivation. I mean, it's why a lot of people are going to be fading Milwaukee on Tuesday. Yeah. Same with Philly. They're going to be fading Philly on Wednesday. They're going to fade Philly on Wednesday as well because they're both locked into their spots and clinched a playoff spot already. I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I don't know why Burns would pitch more than 5. I don't know why the main bats in Milwaukee would also play the entire game. I'm going to take the Cardinals. I think this price is too high for a team that's not going to care either.
All right. Next game on the board is 6:35 Eastern Star. The Boston Red Sox, they are in Baltimore to take on the Orioles. I'm seeing Chris Sale is going to get the start here for the Boston Red Sox, and Dean Kramer is on the mound here for the Baltimore Orioles. No official lines yet, but let me check another outlet here, see if they have anything up. Let me refresh this page, but I don't think they have anything up. But let me get to the standings here for the AL East, because obviously the Baltimore Orioles are hanging on to that AL East lead. They have currently a 2.5 game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays, and they are trying to close in on not only the division, but also a 100-win season for the Baltimore Orioles. You want to take this one away, Chris Sale versus Dean Kramer?
Well, the only problem is if Baltimore wins tonight and Tampa loses, I believe Baltimore clinches the division. But regardless, they should have motivation anyway, because they can still compete with, for example, the Dodgers for the second best record in the league. And I know that's not going to sound like much because they'd only face off in the World Series. I think stuff like that matters, in my opinion, because I know Atlanta's going to have home field no matter what. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's going to matter. So I think that Baltimore, even if they do clinch, you could argue about the champagne, and that might be a potential champagne fade game. So I do want to at least keep an eye on how the results hold on Wednesday. Assuming that Baltimore does not clinch the division on Wednesday, I'll take them in this game. I had Tampa yesterday against Boston. I think they've lost, 15 of their last 19? They've completely fallen off a cliff. They got nothing to play for.
Yeah.
Sale's been okay this year, but he gives you no length at all. And Kramer's been fine. I'll go with Baltimore in this one. Once again, my opinion completely flips if Baltimore does clinch the division on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But assuming they don't, I got to go Baltimore here. Boston's been terrible. There's really no other way around it.
Yeah, in particular, Chris Sale has been absolutely atrocious this season against the Baltimore Orioles as well. 3 starts this season, 12 innings pitched combined in those 3 starts, Scott. He's allowed 18 earned runs. He's allowed at least 5 earned runs in every single one of those starts against the Baltimore Orioles. His last start was back on September 9th at home against the Baltimore Orioles. He went 4 innings, allowed 6 earned runs. He's also allowed 5 home runs off of 22 hits in just 12 innings. So he's been absolutely atrocious. But yeah, you also bring up a great point that the champagne bottles are going to be flowing if they do clinch the division. That, that opinion might completely change. But I may still look at the Orioles as far as a team total, because again, Chris Sale just has not been very good this season against the Baltimore Orioles in those 3 starts, like I mentioned. All right, Scott, before we get over to the next game on this school, let me tell everyone about this here and competition that we're in right now. That's VSiN. We're brought to you by VSiN. Sign up now and save 40% off a football season special when you use promo code SGP. VSiN.com/subscribe, promo code SGP. Sean and Ryan are in a contest going head-to-head with other VSiN shows to see who sells the most subscriptions. The winning show gets a $1,000 Super Bowl future bet. The best part is Sean and Ryan are going to cut you in on the prize if they win. So there's 2 simple steps to get involved. Step 1, go to VSiN.com/subscribe and use promo code SGP to sign up. And then step 2, go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/VSiN. That's VSIN. Submit your proof of purchase. If they win, you'll get a vote on which team to use that $1,000 Super Bowl future on. And if it hits, you'll get an equal piece of the action. So go to vsin.com/subscribe and use promo code SGP. Then sportsgamblingpodcast.com/vsin, that's VSIN, to submit your proof of purchase. And last but not least, we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bets with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets' revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets, or craft more intelligent data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching and start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Scott, let's keep it rolling here, my man. Next game on the schedule here we want to get to. Let's see here. We'll go over to the matchup. I guess another meaningless game here. The Pittsburgh Pirates and the Philadelphia Phillies. No official pitcher yet for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but I am seeing Zach Wheeler is going to be on the mound here for the Phillies. No officials lines yet here, but I think this might be something similar to a handicap that you had for the Brewers here. Scott, any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm automatically leaning to fading the Phillies. It's not as crazy as the champagne fade. It's not often you get two champagne fades in the same day, so Wednesday is a pretty special card. But for Thursday, the Phillies are locked into the one wild card already, so they'd have nothing to play for. And if I'm going to talk about how Milwaukee should rest everybody, I don't know why Harper would play. I don't know why Schwarber would play. I don't know why Turner would. They might play a little bit, but what's the point? I feel like you're looking at what the Phillies might do. They might bench the entire team. So I'm not going to go with the Phillies here. You're looking at Wheeler, who might pitch 5 innings, maybe less, who knows. But I have issues with motivation for the Phillies because, once again, there isn't none, even though they are going to the playoffs again. I'm going to fade the Phillies. Phillies will be favored by a decent number because they are the better team in this matchup, and they do have the better pitcher on the mound. But for me, it doesn't really matter that much because I'm not sure what quality lineup the Phillies are going to use and how long Wheeler's going to go. Pittsburgh might not be a good team. They've been actually somewhat feistier than I anticipated them being. They're closer to 500 than I ever thought they would be. But I am going to go with the Pirates here. I just think looking at what the price is going to be for the Phillies when the lines come out, they're going to be too big of a favorite. With the lack of motivation considered, I'll take the Pirates on the money line.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how long Wheeler will be out there. I think he might even just get scratched because, again, there's no reason for him to be out there.
Well, some of it's rotation. Some of it's just rotation and routine based. You don't want to mess up with the guy's overall timing. So I think, once again, he'll maybe go a couple innings. I see Matthew asking about the over in meaningless games. I'm tempted, but once again, Philly might bench half their team.
Yeah.
So that's why
check the lineups. Yeah.
That's the only thing that kind of scares me off of an actual total, but I am going with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I can't argue against that either. I think that, again, it's exactly what you mentioned for the Milwaukee game as well, right? Like you have your ace on the mound. How long is he going to be out there? Or even like your everyday players, how long are they going to be out there? There's not a lot of reasons for them to be out there. So again, maybe just to kind of, I guess, not really saying game shape, but not, really build that rust as you're kind of getting into the playoffs after this weekend. So yeah, Pirates, either first 5 or full game, or even the over, like Matthew mentioned in some of these games for meaningless baseball. Let's get over to a game that has some meaning for one of these teams. That's going to be a 7:07 Eastern start. The New York Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays. Currently seeing Luke Weaver is going to get the start here for the New York Yankees, and Chris Bassett is going to get the start here for the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays are a -180 home favorite here, +150 on the money line for the New York Yankees. Total is set at 9 with juice towards the under at -120. Run line -1.5, +114 for the Blue Jays, and +1.5, -135 for the New York Yankees here. Scott, what are you thinking about this matchup? Yankees putting a thorn in the side of the Blue Jays, at least on Tuesday night. Can they continue it on Thursday?
Yeah, they won 2-0 and by a home run in the 9th inning. But for the most part, for this one, the Blue Jays should win. We have Luke Weaver on the mound, and he has not been good in New York. Bassett's been fine, and you could argue with motivation obviously mattering for Toronto. It means nothing for the Yankees, but there is a little bit of motivation playing spoiler for your division rival if you have nothing to play for. For this one, I'm just going to go with Toronto team total over, probably the first 5. I'm fading Luke Weaver. I'm not going to really overthink this one. Weaver hasn't exactly been in New York for a long time. He hasn't exactly been there for a good time either because he has not been good, and that's been the story all year long. So I do think when you're looking at the spot here, he's been good with the Yankees, though, for the most part. I mean, he made 2 appearances, 4 innings, 3 runs against Pittsburgh. Okay. And he went 5 1/3, no runs against the Diamondbacks. But I do think looking at the spot, Toronto should tee off against them. And I think when you're looking at, once again, the line itself, Toronto should be this big of a favorite, but I still don't feel comfortable laying this big of a number with Toronto based on what's happened so far this season. I'll take the team total over for Toronto.
Yeah, I can't argue against that. Again, Luke Weaver was a pitcher earlier this season where we were absolutely all fading and just taking the opposite team's team total over. I don't think that has changed here. But like you mentioned, did have one good start against the Diamondbacks, 5 1/3, 4 hits allowed, no runs given up in that game, 3 strikeouts. But again, I think that number one, Chris Bassett has been pretty solid for this pitching rotation of the Blue Jays. He did have a solid start against the Yankees earlier this season, but this was all the way back in May. 7 shutout innings. He did have 7 strikeouts in that game, only allowed 3 hits and 1 walk as well. So I'm going to go with, I like your angle of the team total over here. Also take a look at the run line here at the plus odds here for the Toronto Blue Jays, especially with Luke Weaver on the mound. Maybe a run line in the first 5 innings here as well. I think Chris Bassett can pitch well because this pitching rotation for the Blue Jays has been doing pretty well against his Yankees lineup, what they currently are throwing out there. So maybe look at a strikeout prop here for Chris Bassett as well, because he's had 7 strikeouts in both career appearances against the New York Yankees. And we know the Yankees can strike out at a very high rate. So run line for me, and I agree about Scott's play as well, team total over for the Toronto Blue Jays against Luke Weaver. Next game on the board here, we want to get to, let's go over to the Chicago Cubbies and the Atlanta Braves. We have a 7:20 Eastern start. It's going to be Marcus Stroman makes his return, or I think this is not a return. I want to say he came out of the bullpen when he did return for the Chicago Cubs. When he was coming back from the IL. No official pitcher listed yet for the Atlanta Braves here. I don't see lines here yet, but Scott, any thoughts on this game? It's Cubs or nothing, right?
I don't know if I can even back the Cubs based on Stroman. I don't know if I can, man. I mean, I'm looking at Stroman's numbers here, and he's made 3 appearances since coming off the IL. 2 innings, no runs against the Diamondbacks. 1 inning, no runs against the Diamondbacks. 3 innings, 3 runs against the Rockies. So he has not gone more than 3 innings, and now he's starting. And the Cubs bullpen, I don't trust at all. So I don't even know if I can take Stroman in this game. The other hand, you're looking at the Braves' motivation or lack thereof, and Atlanta is going to get the 1 seed. It's a matter of time. They haven't officially clinched it yet, but it's going to happen.
Right.
So right now, Atlanta is pulling it up. They're 4 games ahead of the Dodgers, and they are 3 games ahead of the Orioles. So doing the math in my head, that does mean technically these games might matter if they want to actually clinch home field throughout the playoffs. This game should matter, right? So based on that, because they would be tied with Baltimore in theory. So
yeah,
I'm going to take Atlanta. I don't trust Stroman enough. I don't trust the bullpen enough. Okay. And I also wonder psychologically, how do you respond from blowing a 6-0 lead with a drop fly ball to lose the game? I don't know. We're going to find out, but the fact that Atlanta's at home and the fact that I don't believe you have champagne ceremonies for home field advantage, Atlanta's so deep, I'm not sure it even matters.
No.
Like, what are you going to do? You're going to bench half of your main guys and just use the bench bats who are also really good? Like, even Pillar's been hitting home runs. Kevin Pillar's been good. Like, I don't even know what to do with this Atlanta team.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Braves here. Once again, I need to see more from Stroman. The fact that he has not gone more than 3 innings in about 2 months, 3 months, even before he got injured, he was going less than 4. He hasn't pitched 4 innings in a start or in a game since July 15th. And now he's in Atlanta. I can't trust Stroman. I just can't do it. I understand the motivation angles if the Braves end up clinching the 1 seed and maybe they're just going to start resting guys. But to be honest, the Braves B lineup might even be able to beat the Cubs. I can't trust the Cubs right now. I think I'm going to fade the Cubs.
It's ridiculous if you kind of go down like the Atlanta lineup and the amount of home runs like these guys have hit. It's been absolutely crazy to see. I mean, I think Ozzy Albies has like 36 home runs on the season for that Braves lineup. It's just an absolutely crazy amount of bombs that team has been hitting this season. But yeah, I think I'm just going to go with the over in this game. And I think that, like you mentioned, if it's an A lineup for the Braves or even if it is their B lineup, this team has been setting records this season. I mean, they've been an all-time hitting lineup this season. You blink your eyes and you look at the score for the Braves are up 3-0, 4-0 within the first 3 to 4 innings, and they've been just that kind of lineup. And even if they are trailing in games, I've seen multiple times this season, they've come from behind and won. So, I mean, you can never count out this Braves lineup as far as their team totals and such. The pitching for the Braves, I mean, I know they've put 2 guys on the IL. I know Max Fried went back on the IL, and I think Charlie Morton as well. But we saw it last night. Bryce Elder wasn't very good. I think, again, this might be maybe a bullpen day for the Braves. But I know the Cubs.
The over.
Yeah, I like the over in this game as well. I think that the Cubs can obviously score as well. So I think that anything around 9.5, I'm definitely going to be on the over in this game between the Cubs and the Braves. 2 games left on the board here, Scott. Let's go back to the Miami Marlins and the New York Mets. 7:10 Eastern start. I'm currently seeing Jesus Luzardo is going to get the start here for the Miami Marlins, and David Peterson is on the mound here for the New York Mets. Don't see lines for this game either, but let me double check another odd screen here. Let's see.
Marlins -125, Mets +105.
Yeah. And then I currently see on Bet Online -120 for the Miami Marlins and +110. So anywhere from around a -119 all the way up to a -125 is what I see. Total is consistent at 7.5 here. Yeah, we talked about the Marlins in that National League wild card race. They need every win they can get. Currently trailing on Wednesday afternoon 4-0 to the New York Mets. I'll start here with Jesus Luzardo. 10-9 on the season with a 3.73 ERA, 198 strikeouts to 54 walks. It's been decent over his last 5 starts. Despite having a 1-1 record, he does have a 3.54 ERA. He did face his Mets team earlier this season where he went 5 2/3 innings, only allowed 2 hits in that game. Did have 4 walks in that game to 5 strikeouts. He has struggled on the road this season, where he has a 5-5 record with a 4.86 ERA. Now, the Marlins have won 3 out of his last 4 starts, but that's been because of plenty of run support. And in those 3 wins, they've scored a minimum of 5 runs for them to win those games. They scored 5. They had 16 against the Braves, and then they had 6 against the Dodgers back on September 5th. On the other side for the Mets, it is going to be David Peterson, a battle of left-handed pitchers here. 3-8 on the season for David Peterson, 5.37 ERA over his last 5 starts. 0-1 with a 4.73 ERA. He did have a good start against the Marlins earlier this season with where he went 5 innings, 8 hits, only allowed 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts in that game. I want to say the Marlins have really struggled against left-handed pitching this season. Again, I think that's been a case in point earlier on the Wednesday game. I believe it was a left-handed pitcher as well in that first game. I know they're playing a doubleheader, but I think I'm going to lean towards the under in this game. First of all, I don't trust either one of these offenses against left-handed pitching. And for the full game, I'll lean with the Marlins here again. I don't love it. I'm kind of trying to pull up their numbers against left-handed pitching over the last 2 weeks here. So coincidentally, Marlins are number 3 as far as WRC plus over the last 2 weeks against left-handed pitching. They have a 317 batting average, 411 on base percentage, 556 slugging percentage, and 967 OPS rating there. I like what I've seen from Jesus Luzardo this season. I'll stick with the Marlins here in a desperate situation. Again, we talked about the whole motivation angle. You can't drop back-to-back games against a team that was pretty much eliminated 2 months ago as well in the New York Mets. But I'll trust Jesus Luzardo here. I don't like what I've seen from David Peterson. I think the Marlins should be able to score. against David Peterson. I wouldn't mind a team total over, but I think that Jesus Luzardo can really limit this offense for the New York Mets. So I'm thinking like a 4-1, 5-2 type of game here in favor of the Marlins here, Scott.
Yeah, I like the under as well. But I think for the sake of the spread, I think I'm actually going to fade Miami. I acknowledged earlier in the show, I can't remember a time where you've seen a play individually keep a team out of the playoffs. I don't think this is one, because I think the Cubs are going to get in. that was kind of a half setup. I don't think Miami's going to get in. So I think looking at how I anticipate the final couple of days to go in the regular season, I don't trust Miami on the road. They're not a good road team. The Mets are not a good team in general, but they have been better at home. And I feel like, once again, the Mets want to play spoiler. I think this game kind of matters to the Mets in a way, because they really don't want their division rival to get in, and the Mets are petty like that. So I do think, looking at this matchup, it's pretty telling to me that even though Luzardo is a much better pitcher than Peterson, significantly better, they're only minus 125. I feel like that's pretty telling to me that even the odds makers don't trust Miami to actually win games they need to win. And we're seeing it on Wednesday. They're no-showing this game offensively on the road like they have done all season long. I'm going to lean to the Mets. I think that they're actually capable of getting to Luzardo. I don't trust Miami's bullpen either, but it's mostly just based on current form. I don't like how Miami's played for the last week or two, and the Mets have not been playing for anything of relevance, but they've been okay recently. They've not been great by any means, but I do think when you're looking at the line itself, the Mets, despite being 14 games under, are right now 3 games over at home. Might be 4 games over, assuming the results hold on Wednesday. The Mets have not been playing great, but they were also against the Phillies and the Marlins on the road. They're back home. Final home series, I think, of the season. I got to confirm if their last series is at home. No, they are playing the Phillies at home. So, yeah, they get to finish at home. They don't have to travel again. But this is going to be this is the I want to mention there is a doubleheader going on Wednesday. So I do want to see how the bullpens are managed for the sake of this matchup, but I am going to go with the Mets here at a small plus money price. I think this line looks trappy. There are some lines that look off, and there are some lines that just look trappy. I don't trust taking Miami at a small money line price when they've been this bad on the road.
Yeah, and Kodai Senga is getting that second, the start of that second game of the doubleheader at home, where he's been absolutely fantastic for that New York Mets pitching rotation. By far the best pitcher, that pitching rotation this season for the New York Mets. So it's going to be, it looks like a tough hill to climb here for the for the Miami Marlins, if in fact they do possibly get swept in the doubleheader on Wednesday afternoon. Last game on the schedule here that we want to touch on here, Scott, is going to be the series of the weekend. That's going to be the Texas Rangers and the Seattle Mariners. They get set for a 4-game set that is being taken place in Seattle. Let me double check here. So the Mariners have the game on Wednesday afternoon against the Astros. Sorry, I should say Wednesday night against the Astros, and they get to welcome the Texas Rangers to town to wrap up this series. So the first game on Thursday of this series is going to be between left-handed pitcher Jordan Montgomery getting the start for the Texas Rangers, and it's going to be Logan Gilbert on the mound for the Seattle Mariners. Looking at the lines for this game, I'm currently seeing around a minus 125 in favor of the Seattle Mariners, and plus 115 on the money line for the Texas Rangers. Total is set at 7.5 in this game. Let's start here with Jordan Montgomery on the season. Let's see here. Let me pull his numbers up. 10-11 on the season with a 3.25 ERA. He's been decent over his last 5 starts. 2-1 with a 3.56 ERA. Coming off 3 straight absolutely brilliant outings by Jordan Montgomery. He's only pitched, last 3 starts, 21 innings pitched. He's allowed 13 hits and only 1 earned run in that span. He's had 17 strikeouts and only 3 walks in that span as well. Now, coincidentally, his last start was against the Seattle Mariners last Saturday, where, like I mentioned, 7 shutout innings. He only allowed 5 hits, 6 strikeouts, and 2 walks in that game. And the Texas Rangers did go on to win that game 2-0. On the other side, like I mentioned, Logan Gilbert is going to get the start here for the Seattle Mariners on the season, 12-7 with a 3.75 ERA. Over his last 5 games, he's 1-2 with a 4.25 ERA. And again, this was the exact pitching matchup that happened last Saturday. And in that game, Logan Gilbert, 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits. He allowed 2 earned runs. Did have a walk problem where he allowed 4 walks to the Texas Rangers. The Rangers were able to take advantage of that and score a couple runs here to get the victory. Now, the Mariners have lost 4 of his last 5 starts, and he hasn't gotten a lot of run support in those 4 losses. 3 of those 4 losses combined to come with 2 runs scored by the Mariners offense. Other than the other 2 starts, it was a shutout, 1 run, and then 5 runs scored in a loss against the Angels. Number 1, I like the under in this game. I think that Jordan Montgomery is in great form here. Again, this is going to be a playoff atmosphere all weekend long. I mean, the teams know, the organizations know, the managers know what's at stake here. Mariners fighting for a playoff spot. Rangers trying to hold on to the lead in that AL West division. I think Jordan Montgomery is definitely the better pitcher of these 2 guys. And again, Logan Gilbert has struggled at home this season. He's only 4-5 with a 4.18 ERA and 14 starts this season. And trying to pull up his numbers against the Rangers this season or in his career.
I have him up this year. He's been good numbers-wise, but he's 0-2.
Okay.
12 1/3 innings pitched, a 2.92 ERA, 0-2.
Yeah. So I think I really love the under in this game here, Scott. And the first side, I will definitely be on the Rangers here because, again, I don't like the form that Logan Gilbert is in right now, especially the way he has pitched at home this season for the Mariners. What do you think about this game?
I like the under as well. You're looking at the games that have playoff-type atmosphere. This is what you're looking for. It's in Seattle, which is the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in the league, statistically speaking. Montgomery's been good. Gilbert's been pretty good, especially against Texas. I like the under. I think you're going to see a pitcher's duel early on. Texas also not a good road team. So I do think offensively, I know that their numbers scare you because of how good they are at home.
Yeah.
On the road, not so much. So I'm actually going to go with the under. Maybe first 5 under if you're afraid of the bullpens. But I see a game that feels like a playoff game that both teams need. And I do think, once again, that's going to lead to less runs. I'm on the under.
I love it. All right, that was the last game we're going to cover here. Again, very limited lines out when we do record this pod, obviously, with at this juncture of the season, a lot of the managers know who they're going to throw out there as far as pitching because we've seen some pitching changes. Weather has also been a factor, especially on the East Coast, and you're seeing, double headers like they have with the Marlins and Mets.
The Marlins are still pissed about that, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they are.
Well, not even just because of that. Apparently, the Mets didn't actually cover the infield, and that resulted in the Marlins being really, really pissed with the Mets. And the league might look into it. But, yeah, there was something that happened yesterday with Citi Field and how they knew rain was supposed to come, and they just refused to use the tarp on the infield, and they couldn't play. So the Marlins are not exactly happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be happy about that either, especially when I'm trying to fight for a playoff spot. But, yeah, I don't blame them. All right, Scott, let's try to muster up a lock and a dog here for the Thursday schedule. Again, very limited options here as far as lines that are out, but I think we know which way we're kind of leaning towards the games that we did cover here. So you want to lead us off?
Sure. So starting off with the lock, I want to just make sure I have a number on this, or if I don't, I really wanted the over in the Braves game, but unfortunately I just don't have that. So I'm going to have to get creative. I will go with the first 5 under in that Rangers and Mariners game. Playoff atmosphere, once again, I am limited based on lines available, but I do think you're looking at what should be a rock fight in that game early on. Total for the full game is 7.5, so you're probably looking at a first 5 total of a juiced under 4. I'm going to take that. I see a pretty low-scoring start. I trust Montgomery. I trust Gilbert against this Rangers team on the road. Give me a 1-1 game through the first 5. I'll take the first 5 under 4 as my lock. And for my dog, I think I got to go with the one team that has nothing to play for with a line available. I'm going to take the Cardinals money line at plus 158. Okay. I think fading Burns makes sense here because he's not going to pitch long. Milwaukee has no incentive to actually use a lot of their main bats. I would also fade Philly, but I don't have a line. I feel better about fading Philly, but once again, I'll deal with whatever lines I have. So give me the Cardinals at a pretty nice money line price against a team that has nothing to play for, that might bench half the team.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue against that. All right, for my lock, I'm gonna just take the full game under in that the Rangers and the Mariners game. I know you like the first 5 under. I think you like the full game under as well, but 7.5 is what the opening number is. That's what I see at some of the offshore books, Bet Online, Heritage Bookmaker. They all have 7.5s right now listed. So, I mean, Scott mentioned it. It's gonna be a playoff atmosphere. I trust both pitchers. It's a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Again, I think that both pitchers should be going along well here. They did face each other last Saturday. It was a 2-0 final. I think something similar. Maybe not that low, but I think definitely under the 7.5 number. Maybe like a 3-2, 3-1, something in that neighborhood. But definitely going to be under for the Rangers and the Mariners game 7.5. And then for my lock, I'll take the run line here. For my dog, I'll take the run line on the Toronto Blue Jays with Chris Bassett and really fading Luke Weaver here, -1.5 plus 114. I think that they should be able to tee off. Again, Toronto is playing for a playoff spot. I know the Yankees probably want to play a spoiler here, but I don't think they can do that with Luke Weaver on the mound here. We mentioned he had a couple of decent starts with as a member of the Yankees, but season long, he just has not been very good. I think this lineup of the Blue Jays should be able to tee off. And I think Chris Bassett, like I mentioned, had a really good start against the Yankees earlier this season. I know they're throwing a different lineup out there, but I think he should go along well here in this game against the Yankees. And I would not be opposed to looking at his strikeout prop in this game here as well for Chris Bassett. So for my dog, I'll take the -1.5 plus 114 on the run line for the Toronto Blue Jays as my dog of the day. All right, that is going to do it for this Thursday episode of the MLB Gambling Podcast. Again, we're itching and clawing, ready to get to the finish line of the season. A lot of meaningful baseball left, but a lot of unmotivated, I guess, baseball, I should say, left for the season here. But Scott, anything else you want to mention, my man, before we get out of here?
Not really. Looking forward to the rest of the baseball season. Should be fun. I might have some personal monies tied up to the AL West race, so we'll keep an eye out on how that turns out. But either way, it should be fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, AL West division are literally coming down to probably the final day of the regular season. And obviously the 2 wild card races in the respective leagues. So we'll be keeping an eye on all of that as we kind of progress and get to the finish line on Sunday. We'll be back in some form or fashion for the episode for tomorrow. So look out for us then. Make sure to follow Scott on Twitter at Reichel Radio. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. More importantly, make sure to follow the Twitter account for the MLB Gambling Podcast at MLB SGPN. And also our Instagram account. You can follow us there at MLB_gambling_podcast. Appreciate everybody in the chat. TVDBJ, Matthew, the usual suspects. Appreciate you guys tapping in with us as y'all do every single day. Good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.